A new documentary called Hope in the Holy Land follows an American Christian named Todd Moorhead as he spends time with Palestinian Muslims and Christians to help better understand the conflict that's going on there. Joining us to talk more about the film and how you can watch it is the filmmaker of the documentary, my brother Jesse Schluntz. How you doing, Jesse? What's up, bro?
Good, man. You're going to have to come clean about the Schluntz, though, I guess.
Yeah, it's when I got into broadcasting, my boss said, you can't use Schluntz because people can't say it. You know, I was on the radio dealing with people. So I took Austell. It's a relative from Europe that we knew. So that's what happened. So anyway, tell us about this documentary, Jesse. I mean, we've seen the conflicts going on in Israel for the past 2 or 3 weeks. There is a ceasefire right now, but this transcends that and brings it to a human level, doesn't it?
Yes. So as a filmmaker, my job is to let the truth speak as much as possible. We live in a world right now where we're in kind of scary waters where everyone is kind of attaching to their narratives and kind of ignoring facts. And I find that very troubling as a filmmaker because one of my jobs is to put my biases on the chopping block, so to speak, and see if they can stand up. So Hope in the Holy Land was a chance for me to help the audience look rather objectively at the conflict. And what was really interesting was all of these angles that you can take on it that you don't hear normally in the mainstream media, simply because there's not enough time, there's not enough bandwidth to really dig into it. And it's a very dense, complicated conflict. So the goal was really overall to get past the statistics and really put a face to the suffering and also the hope that is over there. So yeah, it was a really very challenging 4-year project, but I feel like we kind of said what we wanted to say with it in the end, me and the producers.
Talk about the experience of watching this film. What do you see? What do you learn?
Oh gosh. Well, the biggest takeaways I think people will get is, so in this conflict, we're always hearing about the fighting, but we're not hearing about, there's different hopes that you can encounter over there. So for instance, we met a couple. Well, not really a couple. It's a Jewish woman and an Arab man who started an Airbnb business in Israel in an Arab town, and it's flourishing. We talked with Palestinians who work in Jewish-owned factories in the West Bank and Palestine, who actually are able to earn a better salary and do things like pay for their kids' education, build a home. Todd, the person you follow in the film, taught a surf clinic to a group of students, both Arabs and Jews, and they were all Christians. And then they talked about how their shared faith in Jesus actually is what unites them and takes away that barrier of separation through ethnicity and through all the conflict of the past. So that was really cool.
So you basically you follow along with Todd, the main guy, as he goes through all of these experiences and all of this learning. What did you take away personally, having worked on this project?
Oh man, shades of gray. So I'm a very black and white thinker by nature, and that's not always a good thing. And I think that often discernment and truth is found in the gray. So even with my own stances on the conflict that I might have, you can't deny there's a line in there. There's a very poignant line in the film where Todd looks in the camera and he says, regardless of whether you think the Jews and the Arabs are good guys or bad guys, you cannot deny the suffering of the Palestinian people. So it was really good to show people who maybe have a stance that doesn't leave room for the hearts of one side to be able to sort of counterbalance the two and realize that there are real people on both sides. And often what we see is the conflict, we see the anger, we see the hatred, but there's also a lot of hope there. And there's also a lot of reason behind why people feel the way they do. So we were able to unpack that in a very unique way.
And we learn a lot about the cultures in this film, right? I mean, you'd really dive into the cultures and how they feel about each other.
Yes, that was a big thing. So one of the things I felt really strongly about doing was asking a mirrored set of questions on both sides of the security barrier, in the West Bank, which is the biggest Palestinian territory, and then in Israel proper. So we went to 3 different locations in both the West Bank and Israel, and we asked people, how much does your side really hate the other side? Just basic questions to gauge how much do they really not like each other and what are the reasons why. But one of the more astounding things was we tapped into stereotypes as well. For instance, in the West Bank, we asked questions about, do you believe the Jews caused 9/11? Do you believe the Holocaust even happened? And I was shocked as a filmmaker to discover on the ground that in the Palestinian territories, they don't really even believe in the Holocaust mostly. So it's pretty amazing that there's this whole narrative of facts of history that gets ignored to a certain extent by one side. But also you just learn about how each side ultimately wants to get along with each other. It's just a question of what that looks like and what each side feels that it's owed in this.
This is very timely, as I said, because we've been seeing the conflict over there for the last few weeks. Fortunately, there's a ceasefire right now. But this film just came out, what, a week ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's been ready for almost a year, but we were waiting for a good window, and we weren't waiting for a Gaza conflict, but it just happened to fall that way. May 14th is Israel's Independence Day, and we just happened to be able to release on that day. I will say that just to educate the audience, Gaza is in the south of Israel. The West Bank is in the northeast of Israel. And so most Palestinians live in the West Bank, and that is where we spent most of our time because it's accessible. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, which is an internationally recognized terrorist group. So going down there and telling the story of Gaza was just something that wasn't realistic for this film. We do touch on it in the film, so you understand a bit more of the conflict on that side. But really, this film is not really so much about Gaza. It's about the West Bank where most Palestinians live.
Okay, now how can our viewers see this film?
You can go to hopeintheholyland.com. You can rent it, buy it, share it, check out the trailer, and wherever you want.
Hopeintheholyland.com. All right. All right. Jesse Schluntz, my brother. Proud of you, bro. Little Tommy says you're smarter than me.
We'll see.
All right. See you, Jesse. Proud of you, bro.
Thanks, man.
All right.